listening to the Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technological advanced silhouette decoys on the market. And Vortex Canada, the force of optics.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Union 0430. This is episode 80. Can you imagine another beautiful round number for us to hang our hat on? So tonight you'll see we're pretty light on the participants here. Philly is out saving the world from hippies. Mark, I have no idea where Mark is. He's probably cutting down trees somewhere. Ryan is still on hiatus. We've got Dave up in Kincardine. I'm just outside Kingston, and coming to us from jolly old London, London, Ontario, that is, we have our good friend Ian McCleary from the Real Outdoor Experience joining us, and you'll remember Ian from past episodes. So, Ian, buddy, thanks. It's been a long time since we've been talking. In fact, we've just spent the last 45 minutes catching up, and now we'll probably end up talking about all the things we already just talked about, and we'll just do it on the show all over again. But great to have you back, buddy. Thanks so much for coming on.
Good to get eyes on you, and good actually to chat. You know, we chat with Messenger, text, you know, there's emails and Facebook, and you really can't. Yeah. You just can't beat getting eyes on each other and being able to chat and see each other face to face. So thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate being here.
No, buddy, it's our pleasure. You know, I was talking to my dad. I talk to my dad every day, right? And I have ever since I left home, for the most part, in case I'm in some shithole country overseas or something like that. But you know, as a kid, I can remember, and my dad brought this up to me. He was like, I remember one time when you were a kid and you said, how amazing would it be to be able to do video phone calls? And my dad and I, that's the only way we communicate now. It's through video phone calls, and we see each other every day. And this is, so it sort of ties into what you're saying. You know, we message and we chat and text and all this stuff, but you know, this video Zoom and whatever, it's amazing because we get to see one another, and it's like we're sharing a room. But
well, here's a little secret for you. You know what? I invented the fax machine.
This is
like,
awesome.
And I remember it clear as day, being like 13, 14 years old, saying like, how cool would it be to be able to take a sheet of paper and like feed it through the phone and have it come out on your side?
You were well ahead of your time. What'd you invent?
Everybody act on your idea.
That's right. What'd you invent, Dave?
No, I think all those things were invented when I was still a.
Come on, Dave. Come on, Dave.
Fax machine. I think those things were expired when I was in high school.
It's like the VCR, right?
Yeah. You see all those things on Facebook, like you know you're old when you can tell me what the pencil does for the cassette tape, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I remember, but like right when I was just old enough to like start listening to music on the cassette and stuff is when DVDs and CD players and stuff for all those were out. It's like, yeah, I think I know, like it makes sense, but like I don't know. So
I'm not going to bring up 8 tracks then, Ian. Let's.
No, I'm right there with you, man. So we're getting old, brother. We're getting old.
And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it too, Dave, buddy. You know, a couple things I want to talk about, Ian, and we'll jump all over the place, buddy, but feel free to chime in. So, Dave, a couple things that we've heard over the last week and a half is, the chat we did with regards to the late season goose, that really seemed to answer the question for a lot of people. And Ian, I'm not sure if you listened to that episode, but what had happened is that some people, if you go look at the government or the Canadian Wildlife Federation's, their dates for the late season, it seems as though they just copied and pasted from last year. And the problem is that it goes Sunday to Sunday, and that was causing some people, this doesn't make sense. Why are they doing this? This is weird. Anyways, when we looked into the PDF and then the printed copy, the right dates are on it. So we done a show on it, or we talked about it during one of the shows. And it seemed to make a lot of sense to a lot of guys. I reposted it again today on a couple chat groups because it was still being brought up. But the surprising thing is that there was a ton of people saying, hey, listen, you got to go listen to the Union 0430, because they had talked about this a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and it'll probably help you understand it a little bit more and where the mistake was, right? So that was really cool. We love that. And then just like you, Ian, as we were chatting, there's a lot of buzz about this new First Light waterfowl lineup, Dave. There's a lot of people banging on the door wanting to know what this is all about. And I'm tell you what, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we had Kevin on the show, and he never really gave away too much, but
I honestly think that he gave away more in that one picture he gave us to use as like a prep, like the one with him sitting in the blind there. Like,
yeah.
And there's people out there that's all they do. They're like, oh, there's a new thing coming out. And just like I was saying, like there was a picture of a guy in a tree stand from like above looking down, and they could see his hands inside of a muff, right? Like a hand warmer thing. But it was like,
I'm glad you explained muff there. Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what channel were you on?
Like one of these things, right?
Yeah.
But it had the First Light colors on it, right? And they're
right.
Everyone's like, oh, well, all they did was they just took like a different companies, and then they put one of the neck gaiters over top of it to make it look that way. And then it was like a month later, hey, look what we're releasing. Like there's people all old stuff. So hoping people on Instagram there and picked up on some of this stuff. So
yeah,
I was saying to Damien, I got a pair of the First Light Foundry pants for my birthday last September, and they have been the best hunting pants. Like, and the knee pads in them, what a game changer! Holy smokes.
100%. And like when you're out, especially for turkey, when you're out teaching youth to hunt, and because you're kneeled trying to help them walk them through the shot, and like you're in that blind, and those knee pads are just a huge difference maker, right? So
just remember to take them out before you put them in the wash.
So I find that's the big thing with First Light, is that they're always evolving. Like, and we're talking about waterfowl line now. Like there was, if you remember, we had Paul Peterson on a year ago, and he was talking, like kind of dropping hints like, oh, what's going on with waterfowl? And he's like, oh yeah, something's coming. Well, it was a year before that they were already starting to do the research on it, and like, here guys, the people at the office, let's test this stuff out. So they're always evolving, and they're like always trying to find the next thing. And look at the evolution of the pants, right? Like those corrugates, and before that they had without the knee pad, just the plain all kinds of evolution. So that's great.
As Mark Vitch once said to me, as you get older, you appreciate stretchy pants, and those are there's some good stretchy pants. So words to live by from Mark Vitch. Ian, buddy, listen, the Real Outdoor Experience. What's going on? We haven't been talking to you about it for a while. So, and I know you guys are very popular, and for anybody that's wondering what's going on with the Real Outdoor Experience.
You know what? Like absolutely everybody else in 2020, 2021, coming through 2022, we've been very impacted with COVID. Like Carlin's family has had it, and I travel a lot. We've had it in our family, and we've gone through isolation, and you're in quarantine, and a lot of the stuff that we have planned winds up being like, okay, well, we can't get together to do this video. We're reviewing a Mossberg gun or a Vortex scope, whatever we happen to be doing. Scheduling is, is a huge issue, but you know what, we're still doing it when we can, and still, really enthusiastic about it. But we're healthy. That's number one. Our families are doing beautifully, and there's nothing more important than that. The rest of this is, we're just getting through it, just like everybody else. But we're still enthusiastic about what we're doing. We're still hunting a lot. We didn't hunt a lot together this year, which is sort of interesting. And that's, in fact, I think, it was only a handful of times, which, typically we'd like to get together every other weekend or every weekend, but we couldn't because either I was in quarantine because of coming back from the US, or he was in quarantine because somebody in the fire service had, come in contact or something like that, or, one of our kids had something. So it's been challenging, but we're getting through it. Just like everybody else.
And I think that's the right attitude message to be putting out there. Like, I'm not going to get into the politics of COVID or anything like that, but it is what it is, right? And the only thing you can do is just put your head down and motor through, because the last thing we need is everybody to just stop 100% what they're doing. That's the last thing we need, right? So kudos to you guys for keep going and your passion and keeping it up. Yeah, you may not be able to get out as much as you'd like. Trust me. You know what? I'll give you this. Dave and I have never ever hunted together. Never. And it's, and we say it, and we use it. We say it all the time.
Fix that.
But we say it all the time. And it's got nothing to do with us having big heads or anything like that. It comes down to the fact that usually and Dave lives on the other side of Ontario compared to me, right? So we're not close geographically. And when we get together, we have so many close friends that it's impossible for us to be able to do a hunt together, because we've got so many other people that we want to hunt with, and it's always the next time we'll dedicate a morning for just us, and we'll do it. But every time it's oh no, this guy wants to hunt with us today. He wants to hunt with me, or he wants to go on my boat, or Dave is with the new canoes, and someone will be like, oh, I want to go in the new canoe. I'd love to be able to hunt out of a kayak. So Dave's got to take those guys.
Well, let's be fair too. Like, the main times that we're spending time together is for camps, right?
That's right.
And if we're hosting a camp as Punisher, Damien and I always split up, because we try to make sure that everyone's having a great experience. So Damien's going to take a group, and I'm going to take a group, and we're going to split up like that to do that. And then this year, just by a comedy of errors, I actually went down to Kingston twice to hunt. Well, I tried twice. The second time we got a snow squall here and I couldn't get out of town. The first time I was there and I hunted with, something happened with Damien on the Saturday. So I was going to hunt with him on the Sunday. And then it was like torrential downpours. Like, you're not getting out in a boat that day. So it just, but they call me Dark Cloud. Just put it that way.
That's his nickname.
Yeah. But no, like that's the biggest thing is, like, when we do our camps, we're making sure that it's not about Damien and I hunting together. It's about everyone else. So that's kind of what happens there, but it'll happen.
I would love to be able to quarterback. We're coming up on turkey season, and you know what? Damien is just a straight shot down the 401 to London, Kincardine, straight down, 6 and then 23, right?
Let's do it, man.
Down here, I got properties.
Let's do it. I you know what? I would. So I've never tagged out on 2 turkeys in a season. I've never done it. I've always just got the one, and I've said, if I get around to it, I'll buy my second tag and I'll get out. And there's always something, right? So then, okay, awesome. Let's once we're done the show,
we'll funny. There's a couple of things, obviously, COVID willing, that we've got a hunt with Linda Powell, who's the social media manager from Mossberg.
Yeah,
that's going to be coming up on opening day. but after that, it's just sort of pleasure hunting. We've got some stuff to do with kids and stuff like that, but we could pick whether it doesn't matter, Saturdays, Sundays, Wednesday, we could do any day of the week. Come on down.
Yeah. Oh, well,
it'd be great to host you. It'd be great. Yeah. Let's do it.
We're gonna hammer this out. We're gonna figure this out.
I'm gonna I'll my tags will be full, so I will simply call and film and quarterback it, and it'd be great to host you guys.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah,
I hope you call in 2 Big Toms and we just hear you saying, like, kind of in Jeff Coates' voice, like, aim it here, aim it, shoot, you know, just like
lead it. Yeah, no doubt.
I want to, a shout out to Lance Holm. I want to do a send it to Jesus call it.
Send them to Jesus. Or the Merg beat down that he does every year with the Mergansers. No, that's awesome, Ian. Thanks for the offer, and I trust me. I'm totally going to take you up on it. So you may regret offering that up. So listen, COVID restrictions, obviously it has had somewhat of effect because you guys do, and Dave, I know you've taken part in this or helped out, but you guys do a huge thing for the kids, right? And
Yoda,
right? And I'm guessing you haven't been able to do that over the last couple of years, Ian?
No, we've not, and that's I've said it so much. The kids are the ones that are really losing out on this whole
big time
lockdown, COVID business. Like, does it impact me, personally? Yeah, because my significant other lives in the States and travel back and forth. It's a bit of a challenge. It's COVID to me has been inconvenient. And that's the worst that I can say about it, which is actually pretty good. Globally, people are impacted far more severely, but I think that kids of any age are really impacted, and they're not being able to do the school activities. They can't get into but they can't get their PAL because they've got to do that in class sessions. They can't do it. They haven't been able to figure out, because you've actually got to handle firearms to get your possession and acquisition license, which you need to carry with you when you're hunting. Like, I can take a kid, but only one gun between us until they get their PAL. So like I hunted last year with people that are like 30, but we can only carry one gun between us because they don't have their PAL. They can't do it because you can't have that classroom setting. So that's been a bit of a shit show.
They're starting to run classes now, though.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not right now with the lockdown, but like my daughter got her hunting license during COVID. And that came with her gun license as well.
But she was given her PAL with that, because you've actually got to handle your firearms. How are they facilitating that? Well, and I'm really glad to hear that some jurisdictions are doing that.
I wasn't allowed to sit in with her. I know that was one of the things that it really was hard on her, not having me in there helping her.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they did. I honestly don't.
I do know people that were able to get their hunting licenses, and you could actually go and hunt, but because you need your PAL to carry a gun in the field, you could only have one gun between you. Which, what? At the end of the day, we still make it work. You're sharing guns in a blind, or you get them out.
Yeah, but I do know, like, the planning. I don't know about this area if they actually pulled any off. But I know the planning for a lot, because I know Brian McCrae, our good friend from the OFAH, his son and my son are around about the same age. And we're talking about getting those two boys together late spring, early summer to do theirs down in the Peterborough area. So like people, at least the planning and everything is happening to try and get these people out and get them qualified and get them their license and stuff.
It does make sense. If the kids can go back to school and, be in grade geography and history, there's no reason why we can't run a hunter safety course to get you your PAL.
I agree.
You should be able to do that.
I agree 100%. Hey, and this will be the last thing we'll talk about on COVID. But once the zombies come, and we can't get to the grocery stores, we're going to need all hands on deck on hunting wild game, right? So
you know what? So Yoda, which is something that that has been really Carlin's passion for, years, and it's the amount of energy and time that Carlin committed to Yoda, the Youth Outdoor Day of Adventure, is absolutely amazing. And the team of people that he helped, had working with him, those people I feel sorry for, because in 2020 they still had, hopes of being able to pull it off. Like this, it's not going to last. We still got to plan for it. It wasn't until sort of shortly before it's like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to happen. And then we couldn't do it again in 2021. And, the big question mark about whether it's going to be able to happen in 2022. And the amount of planning that goes into it, and the coordination of resources, and time, materials, and everything else to do that. And then, a week beforehand say, you're not allowed. Like it's we're talking about it now. Whether or not we're going to be able to do it in September of 2022 is a big question mark. We've got the Sportsman show is also coming up. That's something that Carlin and I do every year. The organizers reached out to us. Can we count on you guys for your support? Will you come out and talk turkey hunting and stuff like that? I'm like, hey, you know what? Absolutely. If you guys can, if you're allowed, we'll be there. So we're on the docket if we're allowed to go and do it. So we just
that's great news. I believe Dave and I are hoping we're going to be able to get down there this year. I've never attended the Sportsman show, so I'm really hoping that I can get down there this year and take in that experience. Sorry, Dave.
For the people listening, this Yoda thing, it is a great experience. The kids get to choose a few activities. They get to I think my kids chose shooting 22s, doing shooting a bow, whatever else. But
lighting campfires,
safety stuff like that. The thing that really boggled my mind was a parent has to be with each kid, right? So when I went, there's this big assembly at the start, and they're talking the safety, and then there was that wildlife guy shows up, and just when he started talking, I just started listening. And it was 6 months later, we're talking about fishers coming into the area and otters. And I'm like, oh, well, that it's related. And here's why. And they're like, oh, these people were at this Yoda with us with their kids. Well, where'd you learn that? And I listened at the Yoda day.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's for kids. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of good information there for parents too. I get it. It's fun to sit there on your phone, but man, pay attention. It's a lot of good information that you guys gave out. So good on you.
Such a fun day, again, I can't even recall it now how many kids I've been with the first time they caught a fish, the first time they shot a turkey, first time they took a partridge or a deer, and it's this is the most rewarding thing ever. With Yoda, you're able to do it sort of in a bigger group, not on the hunting side, sure, on the shooting, some survival stuff, outdoor cooking, there's so many events that kids get to choose from, but just being a part of that when kids get to do it the first time, it's just awesome. It's a great thing. I hope we're able to do it again. I don't know if 2022 honestly is going to be the year, but fingers crossed. 2023, get the agenda plan. Just got to be allowed to execute.
Funny story from the last Yoda when my kids were there. My daughter was 10, 11. I forget what the youngest. She was the youngest you could be to go in, right? Yeah. To shoot the guns. And her and her brother, so both my kids were there together, and they both wanted to do the 22 shooting. My son wanted to shoot more than my daughter, and we said, okay, both of you get to pick one thing, and then we'll do the fishing as well. And so my son picked shooting the gun. So my daughter had to go along. Well, she, at that point, guns were not for her, and she just went along with it. Well, they set them both up side by side and all nice and stuff, and they're all done their shoots. They get so many bullets and they get a target, right? And they get so many. Well, my son comes up and his looked really good. Like he had a lot on target. I was like, good for you, bud. And my daughter came out and she had a few on target, but I'm like, what, like very few. I'm like, well, how many shots do you get? And they said it at the time. And I'm like, that's weird. My son had like 1.5 times the holes in his. I'm like, what's going on here? Well, my daughter was actually shooting my son's at the same time, right?
Nice.
It was great. But yeah. So they, as soon as they figured out what was going on, that's why hers only had half them. They were like, oh, what the, yeah. So it was
That's funny.
kind of a funny story. Yep.
It is pretty funny. And when when you're dealing with kids in that type of environment, there's so many things that you've got to focus on. And it's, make sure the safety's on, your fingers outside the trigger guard until you're actually ready to make it go bang. And you might even forget to say, like, okay, your target's number 2 in the line. And that's
Yeah.
Pretty funny. But we never had a safety issue, and kids get a real
and the safety issue, there's no issue there because there's so many volunteers that you guys have. Like every single child had someone there, like a volunteer with each child shooting.
So 1-on-1 ratio, right?
1-on-1 for the shooting stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was really good.
Not so much the fishing, which is what I typically wind up being in charge of. And I'm there. I'm the guy. I get like 8 kids around me, and I get fish hooks in my clothes and in my fingers, putting worms on hooks and taking fish off, and get my hat off by somebody making a cast.
And some of these kids, it's their first fish.
Well, this is what I was just going to say. Like, it got to be like a kid, first time hooking, and God knows how many times they've had to cast. And then the first time that they hook a fish and bring it in, like, it has to be the best day in that kid's life. Like the smile and the excitement on that kid's face has to be like nothing else, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I honestly don't remember the first time I felt that tug. Right. You realize you hooked a fish. Yeah. Like, I've been doing it my entire life. I don't remember my first time fishing, but I do know that when I'm looking at some, an 8-year-old boy whose mom has brought him out because maybe dad's not in the picture, or they don't have anybody else to introduce him to the outdoors, and so they see this through the internet or advertising. The kid, and this is a pond that has sunfish, some rock bass, some smallmouth, some largemouth. It gets stocked with trout occasionally because there's a youth day ahead. So there's always there's actually a chance of catching a rainbow. When you see that, just light up because they feel, oh, reel it in. Like it's. I wish I could do that 300 times a year. It's awesome.
The biggest kick I got, so I helped out with the fishing when I was there the last time. And the biggest kick I got was when you took this, like the mom brings the kid for the first time and they've never fished before. And like, okay, you got to put a worm on your hook. Nope, not doing that. So then you teach, yeah, right. So then you teach the kid how to do it. And then the kid, by the end of the whatever hour, the kid knows how to do it. And they're like, Mom, I can't wait to go fishing again. Oh, like, it's awesome, right? So
yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. And there's something to be said, and I know Dave, I know you spend a lot of time doing it with turkey and waterfowl, and Ian, I know you and Carolyn, obviously the Yoda and stuff. Like, it has to be, in a world where listen, everybody is trying to make money, right? Everybody, like, everything is every venture we get into, we're hoping that it's going to result in some pocket money, some cash flow, right? And that's what makes the world go around, and I get it. But when you can actually forget about that, and your main priority is to just get a child, and it doesn't have to be a child, it could be an adult, somebody that has never ever done it before. But when you put everything aside and your main goal is, I'm going to make sure that this is the most positive experience that they could ever have, and I hope that it hooks them, the pun is intended there, that it hooks them into this crazy, wonderful lifestyle that we all have with regards to hunting, fishing, or even if it's just walking in the outdoors and taking all this in. Like it really is, it says a lot about the person when there's no monetary ties to it, if that makes sense.
100%. And it's like, I get told all the time, you know what, Joe, why don't you do this for a living? Or, you know, once you try to figure out, it's like, because then it would be work. And
That's right.
I wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
And it,
no, seriously. And that's,
yeah.
You know, I've got my work life, and that's what I do to generate an income. This is what I do for fun. And there is an evolution of the outdoorsman. I know we've all seen it and talked about it, but you know, I'm actually experiencing now where, you know, you're as a youngster coming in, you know, you want to be the guy that catches the fish. You want to put it up your hand. You want to be the first one to shoot the gun, or, you know, whatever. You get your first deer, then you become really proficient at it, and then you start introducing others to it, and you become a mentor to others, and that really is the evolution of the outdoorsman. And it's I hate to say it, fellas, but like, no, I'm gonna sit back and look at it and go, frig, I'm in my 50s now. Like, you know, I am at that stage where honestly, I don't care if I'm the one that pulls the trigger. I love doing it. Yeah, you know, I had a great deer season. I wouldn't trade anything for it, but any deer that I took, I would have happily traded for somebody's first time, or, you know, if it came together for again. I just got lucky the times that, you know, it was my turn, and, you know, on the trigger or on the bow, you know, that's give it up for a second for somebody new coming into it that can see it for the first time. Neat.
Well, and you got to think, like, eventually you're going to have people where you're going to be at that age where you can't set up the decoys like you used to. So hopefully, you know, you got some of these kids that are going to be old enough to take you out again, right? And that'll be fun, right?
I got a bunch of nephews that owe me large and gags.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, and you know him as well, Ian and Dave. I know you know, but Barry Keeks. We had Barry Keeks on here a long time ago, and Barry had said, you know, so Barry and them, they look after the South Nation Delta Waterfowl chapter, and in my opinion, in what I've seen, probably the best waterfowl youth program that I've ever seen, and the attendance is amazing and everything. And Barry talked about now at his ripe old age, and Barry, you can send me a message and cuss me out for calling you old later, but Barry's even talked about now, like he goes out, like kids that he had put through on this program are now his hunting partners, and they're part of his crew that he's going out and he's hunting with, and he's watched that entire evolution from first day to being, you know, I got to have all the shiny gear and I got to have all this, and to now they're experienced waterfowl hunters, and now they're passing it on. So it has to be a pretty special feeling to know that you've introduced somebody, you've taught them, you've mentored them, and now they're returning it to somebody else at the same time. You know, maybe calling you up and say, "Hey, listen, I got a hot field. Would you like to come out and hang out with us for the morning?" That's got to be a pretty special feeling.
Plus, it's a game for the youth setting up the decoys, right? Like, here, take all these and go put them out there.
Wow. I would say that gets old. That wears off after a while. There's at some point they're going to be like, "Fuck you!
Yeah,
why don't you get out and set up the decoys? Yeah. I want to sit back and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes."
You know what's funny is it's so easy to I guess make the leap to the introduction of outdoor experiences to kids, but it's not always just kids
that's right
that need that introduction. And that's again something that Carla and I focus on a lot, is like, well, what about that guy that might be 40 and just wants to do it, just realizes that golf is not for him, but needs an activity, and I'll tell you a story about a guy, and I bumped into him. It was a work-related experience, and he was from Miami, and he wanted to come to Canada, and he wanted to take in Canada. He wanted to camp. He wanted to see moose and bears, and could you introduce me to this type of thing? This is going back quite a few years, but we had a family property, and there's bears and moose and fish and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'd love to introduce you to what a camping experience in Ontario is all about. So this guy comes up from Miami, and he's got a neon green headscarf on. He's got big wide sunglasses, and he literally looked like he came from Miami Beach, which he did. And we went to a property that it's been in my family for an awful long time, and we were camping, and camping, no electricity, no running water, outhouses, and, right, fishing opportunities and stuff like that. He wanted to see a bear, so we had put some baits out behind the cabin and stuff like that. And when he heard snuffling and stuff behind the cabin, he's like, oh my God, I don't want to, there's bears here. He got scared. How do you deal with that? There was a little island off the about 100 yards off the end of the dock. I said, well, I'll put a tent out there, if you'd be more comfortable sleeping out on the island. He said, well, yeah, you know what? I hate to be a, sort of the scaredy cat, but yeah, would you mind if I slept on the island? So here we are, it's 10 o'clock at night. We'd had a couple of cocktails by this point, but okay, we'll put up a tent. And one of the other guys that was with us went out and slept with him, and put the tent out, and the sleeping bags in the tent. I was now fast forward to 5 o'clock in the morning, and I heard something outside. I sat up in bed. What's that? I heard something, and I started to hear splashes in the water. The beavers are splashing. Oh, you know what? There's a bear out there, and I could hear the beavers slapping their tails on the water. I'm like, huh, neat. And then I went back to sleep. Didn't think anything of it. They come back at 9 o'clock in the morning, and Bob, this guy from Miami, his mind was just blown. He's like, I can't thank you enough for this, experience in Canada. And he said, I saw things I never thought I'd see. Like, well, what happened? While I was sitting up in bed, the beavers are slapping their tails, he had woken up in his tent, needed to go outside. Well, he goes outside, and he's looking back towards the cabin. Beavers start splashing their tails, but he doesn't recognize they're beavers because he's from Miami.
Yeah.
So the other buddy that was inside the tent said, why are you throwing rocks in the water? He just yells at outside the tent. He turns to the guy and he said, I'm not. The bears are. He said, what? He said, yeah, the bears are throwing rocks in the water. He gets out of the tent, and he looks back, and there's the cabin that I'm sleeping in, and there's a mom and two cubs standing on the shore, sort of doing one of these. Beavers slapping their tails. He thought that beavers were throwing the bears were throwing rocks in the water. He didn't know that there were beavers there. So, of course, nature disappears and just goes back to wherever it came from. But he comes back to going, I just watched bears throw rocks in the water. He thought it was the coolest thing. But when you put it all together, it's like, wow, what a cool experience that guy had. He has no idea.
How many times do you think he told that story?
Oh, he's
millions. Yeah, millions of times.
I saw bears throwing rocks in the water.
Sorry, Dave, I cut you off, buddy.
No, I was just going to say, the Bears are having a stone skipping competition or something, right?
Yeah.
It's such a funny thing, and we did have a problem with bears at the cabin at that point, that right after they canceled the spring bear hunt, populations are exploding all over the place. Right. We got a little bit overrun, had to do some management with the bear population after that. But, you never underestimate your ability to impact somebody that can see the woods through a different lens than what you're used to. And it was
Yeah.
such a cool memory for me to be able to look back and just to see how that sequence of events came to like, you know, very city, Miami Beach dude finds himself in, you know, kind of Northern Ontario. And, you know, he's got expectations in his mind of what it's going to be like to see bears. And he was so afraid when he, you know, and I was a little bit cavalier. I was, you know, quite a bit younger. We're putting scraps out from, you know, dinner and stuff like that out behind the cabin, knowing that there's bears around. So when he hears the snuffling, like that's bears, you know, I don't care. But that scared the shit out of that guy to the point that he needed me to go and pitch a tent on an island for him to sleep on.
That's me. Full disclosure, that would be me as well, Ian. If there's bears around, I'm nowhere near where there's bears. No.
You're from Newfoundland, by, you know,
I got chased by a bear one time and I've never forgotten it. And I'll never forget it. And someday I'll tell you the story and I'll tell you the look on my dad's face when I told him about it too. But we don't need to get into that. But yeah, I full disclosure. I'd be with your buddy from Miami out on the island too.
That's awesome. But you know what? Everybody, get a kid, get anybody outdoors. And you know what? As I start to get older, like, you know what? We all focus a lot on kids.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the old people.
Yeah.
You know, if there's somebody that's 75 years old and, you know, maybe they've got a walker, maybe they're in a wheelchair, but wouldn't they love another morning in the turkey woods?
That's a really good point. And something that Dave and I have talked about, and we never really ever made it public, but I think this is an excellent opportunity to do it. Dave and I have had discussions where we've wanted to do a veteran camp and stuff like that and get some veterans out. But we would really, really, really like to get anybody with any mobility issues. So if you're an amputee or if you're in a wheelchair or something like that, if you, and unfortunately I'm just a lowly old duck hunter, so I can't offer any other hunt. But Dave and I would absolutely be over the moon to be able to take somebody that has some mobility issues and get them out on a hunt, and we would take care of everything. All you literally got to do is show up. We'll get you out there and you know, and we'll take care of it. So we'd never ever put that out publicly, Dave, but I think that this is a great chance because we've talked about it so many times. We just don't know, like, how do you do it? How do you ask? And I think this is a perfect opportunity to ask and say, listen, if you have mobility issues and you want to go hunt and you're in Ontario, reach out to us and we'll get you out on a hunt. 100%.
One of the interesting things about, you know, the Facebook and our ability to connect socially and, you know, via social media, anybody who's listening that knows somebody that has mobility issues, or if you know, and, you know, maybe an old person that, you know, talked to you once about hunting, but you're not sure if they get out hunting anymore, connect with us.
That's right.
And we can, like, say, hey, you know what, if you're interested in going out on a waterfowl hunt, we can get you into a field. We can get you into a turkey blind.
Absolutely, we can.
I love taking kids. I love taking older people too.
Yeah,
so,
I like taking anybody as long as if you can carry a conversation in the blind. I don't care who you are. All you got to do is, you know,
be safe.
Be safe and be a good person, and we'll take you 100%. So, awesome. So we got that out there. So I'm expecting a ton of messages from people wanting to come out on a hunt with us next fall. Now, Ian, I want to. Oh, sorry. Go, Dave.
I want to add one more thing.
Sure.
Every year I try to make like 5 or 10 turkey calls for youth hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every kid in this area has got one that needs one, or they just haven't reached out. If if someone's listening this far into an episode and they're a new hunter and they want to try a turkey call out, send us a message on the Punisher page. I will have one whipped up within a week and send it out to you. Like, if you're a new hunter, I try to do them no charge.
Yeah,
I will look into whether you're a new hunter though. Like
boxes, slates, or mouth calls. What are
he's got just
I do some slate pot calls. Yeah.
Hold on, you guys get talking. I'm gonna show you mine that he made for me. You guys talk, and I'll show you mine.
That's actually a really that's a beautiful offer, Dave. And you know what? If you could hook me up with one, I will make sure it winds up in the hands of a youth hunter also.
I'll get that going for you, buddy. It's so what I tend to do is for all the new hunters, I make them out of maple or walnut, right? A slate call and then a 2-piece striker, and get that out to them, and they can practice with it. And I get I don't ask for pay from it, but all I ask for is the first time that kid shoots a bird using that call, I want to see a picture of that smile, you know? Yep. And like the first time that it happened, I gave a call to a kid and I got a picture back, and that meant more to me than anything else. Right. So
yeah, man, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, I do sell some calls, like the more expensive ones with like epoxies and stuff, whatever. Right. But these ones, I'm just taking like maple and walnut and stuff that I can easily get and take out of materials and stuff, right? Like if I'm driving by and I see a bed frame on the side of the road that's a solid maple, that fucking thing is coming home with me, getting cut up and putting into turkey call, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, there's the one I made for Damien. So
look at that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It's such an amazing little call. Whoever reaches out to Dave, I promise you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. So yeah, like if you're a new hunter, youth hunter, especially youth, let me know. We'll get you some calls going out. Like, now I know there's a million listeners, so if I get too many, I still have a full-time job, right? So,
and if you want to put the caveat out there, you've got to be under 18 or over 70.
Sure.
One of the two.
Yep.
Okay. I need to, I want to shift this again because I really want to get back to something that you touched on, Ian, and that was the Toronto Sportsman show. So hopefully it's going to go ahead. So tell the millions of listeners and the people in Ontario, especially the ones that are going to make the Toronto Sportsman show, what is it that you and Carlin are going to do? I know you guys get on there and you get the grand stage, you get all the focus. So what do you guys talk about at the Toronto Sportsman show?
You know what? It's funny, and it's something that we struggle with every year. It's such a fun question, Damien, because like the being on the stage at the Toronto Sportsman show, it's like, guys, that's the big stage, you know, and that's being able to get up there and talk about stuff that we're passionate about and interested in, but that other people want to hear. And what we keep sort of putting out to people is like, what would you want to hear? And, you know, we talked to Vortex and Mossberg and Nanook and, you know, all of our other sponsors, you know, what do you want us talking about? And it's just like, you know what you guys do with the introduction to turkey hunters and turkeys does wind up being sort of our thing. It's what, you know, combined we're probably best at. And we've got presentations for, you know, different styles of turkey hunting, or, you know, whether mornings or, you know, putting them to bed or all that kind of stuff. But we haven't got this year's agenda fully baked, but it's going to be something in that, you know, tactics and tips aimed at beginners, but with subtle differences that even very seasoned turkey hunters are going to pick up a thing or two. Just
nice.
You can't help it, you know, right?
Yeah, no, and it's awesome. And I think that's something that, and I guess, Dave, you sort of kind of alluded to it when you had said you were at Yoda and you picked up a little bit of information. Listen, I don't care who you are. I learn every day I hunt, every day. I learned something new or something to improve upon. So, you know, you're going to the Toronto Sportsman show, or you're going to any show, you're listening to any person talk, pay attention, because you probably will learn something.
Well, Damien, that's such a great point, because the really cool parts do come in the Q&A section, sort of at the end. You know, we go through our presentation, whether it's, you know, tactics between 10 and 2, or, you know, how to put turkeys to bed, or you know, scouting, or asking for permission, or any of those types of things that are such a crucial part of becoming a proficient turkey hunter. But then we always open it up and it's like, okay, you know, you got 100 people in front of you. Like, what are you interested in? What do you want to know about? And somebody will answer something. And then suddenly, like, somebody over here has got something to say about that, and you get a dialogue going. Yeah. And because of the I don't know if it's the atmosphere or just the presence of the stage or whatever it is, but it never seems to get out of control. Nobody's talking over anybody else. Like, people are there that just want to learn and participate and ask questions and learn stuff. And I know when I go to events and I listen to other people speaking, I'll pick up things that is like, you know what, you know, I wouldn't have thought of that. And it's just things that you don't normally know. You know, it's a funny sort of caveat. So I was hunting last season in Maine with a guy, and in Maine you have to have a guide. So we got it set up through Terry Smith from the CW2F connected me with a guy in Maine, and we're out there, and I was calling, and I was using a mouth call and clucking on a slate at the same time. And we wound up bringing a turkey in. We had harvested. It was a really cool hunt. But he said, you know, I'd never heard that before. I said, what? And he said, well, you sounded like a flock of turkeys, because you were using a mouth call, you were using your slate, and I saw you use 2 different strikers. He goes, you sounded like a whole flock of turkeys, and the problem just came right in. I'm like, well, doesn't everybody do that? You know?
Yeah.
And it's such an easy thing. It's like, bring 2 strikers and do that while you're using a mouth call. You can sound like a whole band of turkeys.
Yeah.
But easy to forget that, you know, something that you've been doing for, you know, your entire career, other people haven't quite tweaked in on yet. So I don't know.
But that's one of the things I really enjoy about, like, when I drive to Kingston to hunt with the boys, or go somewhere else to hunt with other people. Like, I like to sit back and, like, I'll ask questions like, oh, what did you do this for? And like, the hell, you don't know that? Well, no, we don't do it where I'm from. You do it a little bit different. So why? Like, the birds are birds. What's the difference here? And there's a reason for it. And then you go home and you try it. And the biggest part about it is that, especially for birds, like for ducks, is that I go home with something that I learned from Jason or Damien or someone, right? Go home and try it here. Well, it's different than what everyone else is doing. And, you know, pay attention to that stuff. It's kind of neat.
Absolutely.
Birds are birds. And it's funny. We give them so much credit for being so intelligent and so wary and everything else. Remember, they've got a brain the size of a pea.
Yeah.
And yes, they've got reflexes, they've got senses. There are things that we just cannot compete with. But at the end of the day, they're pretty easy to fool. But Damien, I know that you'll do things a little bit different than Dave, and Dave, you'll do different than me, and I'll do things that are different than both of you. And when you combine the knowledge, it's great things can happen. I try to hunt with different people all the time. It's just so cool.
We talked about it a couple months ago. Mark Fitch, myself, and Phil got together for a goose hunt, and there was a good 10 minutes where the 3 of us were saying what we should do with a decoy spread, and the 3 of us all had different opinions. Do you know what I mean? So that's just the way it is. Dave, you're right. Regardless where you go, you're going to pick up a new trick, or you're going to pick up something that you never ever thought about before. And it's the geography of the area. It's the food that's in the area. It's everything. So you can't attack every species with the same techniques, because it's probably, I shouldn't say it's probably not going to, it may work for you, but the local people probably have a little bit different of a way of doing things. Listen, I never thought I'd ever see a goose. I never thought I would ever see a goose hit a potato field either. But PEI, here you go. And I never thought I'd use seaweed to attract black ducks, and I done that in PEI as well, right? So it's really cool. I did want to touch on. Oh, sorry, go Dave.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the big thing, if you go out hunting with someone else, you can see the thing in action, right? Like if I go to London and I hunt with Ian tomorrow, and Ian shows me this, I'm seeing it in action. But if I go to the Toronto Sportsman show and I'm listening to Ian talk, I'm going to be like, well, that could be bullshit. I don't know. And it probably isn't, but now I got to go home and prove it. So, right?
Well,
think of it that way.
And then that's very true, right? Because listen, we all know that you can be, in the military, we call them subject matter experts, right? You can be someone that is very knowledgeable on something, but there is going to be someone that's going to be like, that's not going to work. There's going to be a naysayer no matter what, right? And that naysayer, he's going to go home and he's going to tell his buddies or her buddies or whatever, and is going to say, you wouldn't believe the shit I heard at the Toronto Sportsman show. And they're going to fucking try it. You can be sure as there's shit in a dead cat, they're going to try it. They are going to try it. And they're going to try it just so that they can message you and say, I did what you said. I knew it was bullshit and it didn't work. You can be sure that someone's going to try and do that. So, yeah, I love it, boys. I do. I love it. I love Dave. It amazes me how much time you devote to kids when it comes to the waterfowl season. And you and Carolyn, the amount of stuff that you guys are into, like I couldn't even imagine. Like I do ducks. That's it. I don't even really fool with geese. I fool with ducks. And actually I can even dumb that down even more. I fool with puddle ducks. I don't even fool with divers. And that takes up so much of my time. I do not know how you and Carolyn can fishing and turkey and deer and bear and geese and ducks and partridge and rabbit and everything that you guys are into. And it's amazing to see, because like you said, and for anybody that's wondering, Ian is successful and so is Carolyn. Both of them are successful human beings, and this is fun for them. So if you think that this is a money generator, this is fun for them.
Yeah,
so,
no, it is.
So your passion
for a living, sort of doing other things, but there is a jack of all trades, master of none thing going on. Like, we love to waterfowl hunt and duck hunt, goose hunt, and everything else. We're not at the level of waterfowl that.
It's amazing, buddy. My hat's off to you guys. I know all the things that you've done and all the educational pieces that you've done. It's amazing, and you know what? I love that I can call you friends. I love to be able to watch the stuff and joke and fool around. We got to get Carolyn on here, because I got to get Carolyn and Dave the team up on Phil, just for a couple. For a few minutes.
And see,
sorry, say that again. I think my internet just crapped out there for a second.
We got to get Carolyn and Brian McRae.
Right? Oh yeah.
I'd like to point out though, now that we're speaking about this, we've had how many firefighters on here, and the only police officer we've had is Phil, right? And we always say surround yourself with good people. And it's only firefighters we've had on. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. Hopefully Phil watches this episode.
In my world, that's called laying the gauntlet down. I think that's a slap, or a shot across the bow of Phil. Actually, see, Chris Collins is a big listener. He's a copper. So
yeah, he's a good guy, but he hasn't been on the show.
No, he hasn't. Oh well, right? We're gonna have to reach out. Now we got to reach out to Chris Collins and get Chris on the show. So which would be awesome. Guys, I have no idea where we are with time right now. But I'm thinking we must be close to that hour. I had a couple extra things that I wanted to talk about, but we're going to save it for another time, Ian, because I know where you live, and I have your contact information, so I know I can get you back on the show anytime. So I'm going to save those couple extra topics, and we're going to talk about that some other time. Buddy, again, just like I was saying, the passion that you and Carolyn have, I still want to come to New York and see the property, and maybe I should talk to Jen before I talk to you about this, because she's probably the one that's going to veto anything where a bunch of hairy ass men come to the cottage and stuff like this. But I do want to come to New York. I do want to see the cottage, but I'd love to be able to walk that ground with you and explore that. Amazing. You're a good friend, buddy. You have been for a long time. We'll do a quick, not even around the table. It's just Dave. So, and then we'll end with you, Ian. Dave.
Yeah.
No, Ian, it's great to have you on again. And you know what? I hope we do connect for turkey season. It's going to be a time. So, again, and thank you for everything you've done for all the youth and new hunters and everybody out there, like even us adults that actually take the time to listen, right? So yeah, keep on keeping.
Yeah, and we'll keep it real forever, you know, and it's so genuine. You know what, Dave, you come to London, Damien, come on down to London. We'll spend a weekend screwing around the woods, calling some turkeys, and you know, we'll all learn from each other and hunt new spots, and we just gotta pick a date and then just hold to it, you know. And that's at least we're all in Ontario. We don't have to worry about any type of, you know, we can drive separate cars if that winds up being an issue. You know, we can sit 6 feet apart and we can do that. That's,
I do have to add in that I will be bringing my young fella, because that is the one hunt that he is passionate about is turkey. He hasn't been bitten. He hasn't been bitten by the waterfowl bug yet, but he loves coming with me on a turkey hunt. So he's got to come with us. So
do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Ian, buddy, I know we could go on for another hour and keep chatting, but we're going to save it. We're going to save it for another day, and we'll have you back on again, buddy. Thanks so much. You've been such a great friend over the years. Always rely on you to. Anytime we have questions, we need help, and it's not just the show. You've always been there for us. You've always been in our corner, and I'll speak on behalf of Dave. You don't know how much it means to us, and we're forever thankful for all the things that you've done for us.
For Phil and Ryan and Mark, you know, I'm a fan of what you guys are doing. You know, the Punisher brand is something I'm proud to be associated with. I love my challenge coin. You know,
yeah, buddy.
You guys just keep doing what you're doing, because you're having impact on people that you have no idea. So just keep being you and doing your thing, and just know that people are following and learning and getting caught up in your passion. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 80 of the Union 0430. We are not experts, and we'll never claim to be experts. We're just a bunch of people that love hanging out, chatting with one another, probably picking on cops and firefighters.
People from Miami.
And then people from Miami. But listen, this is us. We are as genuine as it comes. We are as advertised. This is us. No smoke and mirrors. Big love. Thanks for listening. Until next week.
Yeah, keep it real, everybody.
Keep it real. There you go.